friend of the channel, Lucas, sent me a message this week about Matthew 24:29, specifically from the King James Version, and an interesting little nugget in there about the moon and whether or not the moon is a lady. So let's start out by reading the verse from the King James Version, and then we're going to take a look at a piece of it in Greek. So immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. So this is a quote from Isaiah chapter 13, verse 10, that Matthew includes in his gospel. And the phrase here in question is kai he selene udose tophengos autes. So kai he selene, and the moon, he selene is the moon, and it is a feminine noun. All Greek nouns are either masculine, feminine, or neuter. This is a feminine noun. We can tell that from the he article and the eta ending. And so this feminine noun is going to lead us to the necessity of a feminine pronoun, because pronouns have to agree in case, gender, and number with what they're referring to. So kai he selene, and the moon, udose, shall not give tophengos, the light or the radiance. So this is not generated light, this is a glowing light, like the reflective light of the moon. And then we get our pronoun autes, of her, because it's a feminine pronoun. Now in English, most translations say its light, because in English we don't think of the moon as a feminine thing, but he selene is in fact a feminine noun in Greek, and autes is a feminine pronoun because it has to agree with the noun. So it's grammatically proper here to say in the King James that the moon shall not give her light, because it's a feminine noun. But it's also grammatically proper in English because we don't look at the moon as being a lady or as being feminine. It's perfectly proper to say, and the moon shall not give its light. So neither one is right or wrong. One is prioritizing the English understanding, one is prioritizing the nature of the Greek noun and pronoun. So our word of the week this week, he selene, the moon. There's an identical passage to this in Mark chapter 13, verse 24. And then there's a parallel passage in Luke that does not include the quote from Isaiah 13:10. Why not? Well, you'd have to ask Luke, but here's what I would assume. Luke is a Gentile author writing to Theophilus, a Gentile reader who probably doesn't have an automatic and deep connection with a quote from Isaiah, so he doesn't include the quote from Isaiah. Let's look at another quote from Acts chapter 2. This is verse 20, where we read, "The sun shall be turned to darkness, and the moon, he selene," sounds familiar from our previous verse, "to blood, before the day of the Lord comes, the great and magnificent day." So this is a quote from Joel chapter 2, verse 31, and it's seemingly impossible for the sun to be turned to darkness, right? Because when we think of the sun, we think of it for its brightness. But he says, Joel says, and is quoted here by Luke in Acts, the sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon, he selene, into blood. So darkness is skotos, turned into darkness, and blood is haima, like hematology, right? So we think of the sun for its brightness, we also think of the moon for its brightness, and it's usually bright white, or depending on the phase or the time of day, it's sort of gray brightness, but never red unless it's covered up by clouds or an eclipse or something like that, right? I'd like to take a quick look at the verb metastraphesetai, which is a future passive indicative third person singular verb. It shall be turned, so meta, after, and strepho, turned. It shall be turned from something to something else. So the sun is going to be turned from brightness to darkness, from something to something else, and the moon from a white or a light gray to blood red, right? It's being turned from something to something else. Pretty interesting stuff. We're going to look at one more. It's Revelation chapter 6, verse 12. When he opened the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth. The full moon became like blood. So the phrase here in question, he selene hole ageneto hos haima. A little bit different from the quote from Acts, because this is not a quote of Joel, this is a paraphrase of Joel. So it's the same information given to us in a slightly different word, in a paraphrastic wording. And so, he selene hole, the whole moon, or what we might think of in English as the full moon, ageneto, became or was becoming, hos, as or like, haima, blood. So the whole moon became as or like blood. So it didn't become blood. It's not a big giant globule of blood, a sixth of the mass of the earth in space. It was like blood. Otherwise, its appearance was like blood. So is the moon a lady? No, the moon's not a lady. But he selene, our word of the week, is in fact a feminine noun. So when the King James says it shall not give her light, the moon shall not give her light, it's simply reflecting the feminine nature of the Greek noun. But when other translations say its light, we're simply reflecting the common English understanding that the moon is not a she, the moon is an it, right? It's a thing, it's an object, it's not a person, it's not a she. Hope that was good for you. Thank you, as always, Lucas, for sending me fodder for the channel. Great stuff for us to pursue. If you enjoyed this, please tell a friend, share the video on your social media, that kind of thing, so other people can find it. And until next time, Karas Kairene Humin, grace and peace to you.